Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is March 18th, 2017. Today we're going to bring you some credible information pertaining to brown dwarf star system in the inner solar system. We're going to bring you the evidence in a two-part series. This is part one. The information that you are about to view will be very scientific. Some of it may or may not be completely understandable, but I'm going to do my best to show you that we definitely have a brown dwarf star within our solar system, and it has been here for quite a while. And we're going to go ahead and get directly into the information. Now, I'm going to be working very closely with a physicist, a theoretical physicist. This person is very highly educated. They know exactly what they're talking about. They know exactly what they are researching. Now, the information provided to me today, I've gone over it in depth. It is very credible information coming from a credible source. Once again, you may find some of this information a tad bit boring because it may be hard for you to understand, but I'm going to put it in layman's terms so we can all understand it. Now, this paper goes into talking about the evidence of a brown dwarf star in our solar system. This brown dwarf star is actually part of its own system. We are no longer talking about the nemesis theory. That much is for sure. I mean, we could almost just throw this nemesis theory out the door after reading this paper. In the beginning, it states, I've written multiple articles showing that the sun is going dark twice a year. I have clearly shown the evidence as provided by the images detected by the SDO Solar Dynamics Observatory satellite. The SDO satellite has been in orbit since February of 2011. An examination of the images since 2011 until recently has shown that a period of the twice yearly dark sun cycle is, and this is the formula that was used for these calculations. Now we're going to go down here to table 1. This is the start of the dark sun cycle, dates, and the period in days between each twice yearly cycle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what this is referring to is this is in-depth research from 2011 until February 14th, 2017, showing the cycle, the number of days in which our sun goes dark, and the reasons why this is happening. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these dates, but you could see it all kind of correlates around 180 days and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and move on because we have quite a lot of information to cover. Now it says, according to the gravitational theory of star formation and the theory that states that stars are powered by thermonuclear reactions from within, it is impossible for a star to go dark, but the observations are telling us that the sun is going dark. This means that we need a new theory to explain what makes the sun work. Fortunately, we have the electric theory of the universe, which states that stars are formed by galactic electric currents and that they are also powered by these currents. This means that if another star were to approach our sun, the current supplied from the center of the galaxy would flow through this other star and stop flowing through our sun, causing it to lose its power and go dark. So let's put this into layman's terms. Basically, you have one object that is using one electrical current. If you plug another object into the same electrical current, you're basically going to split the power source. Therefore, one of the objects will have less energy being supplied to it. That's the way I'm seeing this in my mind and understanding it. Now, we're going to go down a little bit further, and we're going to start getting into some actual evidence that has been investigated, and it's quite incredible information. Now, it says, since we know the dark sun cycle period is approximately 180 days, we can estimate the star's system's center of mass distance from the sun using Kepler's third law. Now, assuming that the mass of this star system is the same as the sun's, and using the fact that the Earth, which has a period of 365 days, is at a distance of 1 AU, we get the following formula. Now, 1 AU means an astronomical unit. An AU is the distance from the Earth to the Sun, which is approximately 93 million miles away. And even now, that figure is in question. Now, moving down to this first diagram, it states, this means that the center of mass of this star system is between the orbits of Mercury and Venus, since Mercury's average orbital radius is 0.38 AU, and Venus's orbital radius is 0.72 AU. Astronomical units, the measurement from the Earth to the Sun. Now, this places this star system well within the inner solar system. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, we are in the inner solar system. Now, I know maybe this diagram might not make a lot of sense to you. I'll do my best to explain this. And here in the center, if you follow my cursor, you're going to have the sun. The blue circle here identifies Venus. You have two orange circles with orbital patterns, one being in orange, the other being in black. Ladies and gentlemen, what this is showing you is the scientific evidence through this paper that there are not one, but possibly two additional stars within our inner solar system that are wreaking havoc on our sun. It's very disturbing. Very disturbing. You just can't make things up like this. These are very well thought out formulas. This diagram definitely shows how this is possible. Now, understanding the dynamics of stars and planets, it's really not that hard. These are two different types of objects, planets and stars. They have different features and they react differently within a solar system. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And this basically shows you, the orbital path of the first star here and the larger star here. Now, it is claimed that we belong to a binary star system, meaning our sun has a partner. There are also systems, solar systems within our galaxy, that have 3 stars. So, it seems like we may have to rewrite history. We may have to rewrite science books that kids are learning about in school. But we know that's never going to happen. We definitely know. Let's move further down. We're going to get into some illustrations of the actual proof. The actual proof is provided by some of the NASA satellites and space equipment that monitor the sun. And I'm sure they didn't think, going back into 2007, 2008, 2009, and 11, that people would be looking at this information. But you know what? We're going back and we're looking at the information now, and all of the evidence was sitting there all of those years ago. Now it takes one very highly intelligent individual to take their time researching this information and putting it into a form where I can present it to you. Now, this article goes on to say, for illustrative purposes, I'm going to assume that the central star in this system contains most of the mass of the system, which means that the central star is very close to the center of mass of the system. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's trying to be explained to you when we're talking about mass, an object can be, for instance, smaller than the Earth in diameter, but its mass can actually be more than the Earth. So we're not actually referring to the size and the diameter of an object, but we're referring to the dense mass of this object. When these objects are very dense, maintaining this mass, they are very powerful. And even though they may be smaller than the Earth in general, they're very powerful. Their magnetic force is very intense. And these are characteristics of stars and brown dwarf stars. Now, it states right here, this image that we're looking at is coming from the H1A, A meaning ahead. And this is one of the crafts that they have it named Secchi. And this is one of the Secchi images from H1A, visible light image provided by Secchi, and this is from March 18th of 2011. This is how far back that we had to go to start to find and research what is happening and to try and come up with actual evidence that these objects exist in our inner solar system. Because, ladies and gentlemen, people are going to tell you, oh, that's Venus. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if I show you this picture and I edit the picture and I type in the word Venus right next to this little glowing sphere, if I type in Venus right there and I tell you it came from NASA, you'll believe it. You'll believe that that object right there is Venus. Now, it states that the object to the left of the sun is labeled Venus. But as we will see later, it cannot be our planet Venus. Now, everybody has been wondering, why is Venus so bright in the nighttime sky? Well, we may be coming up on some of the answers to that. Now, going into figure 3, this is figure 3 H1A, visible light image provided by Secchi on March 18th, 2011. The same object as in figure 2 is visible. It has a light blue area surrounding it, suggesting that it is very bright. A large transparent circle is also visible in the image. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these images haven't been doctored. These have been pulled directly from Secchi according to the dates, March 18th, 2011. Okay, you can see here from the right to the left, you can see the rays of the sun. You can see this object. You can see this huge transparent object. Now, I've been looking at these images for many, many years myself. I've seen what I might have thought might have been lens flares or flares. coming from the brightness of Venus. But after reading this report, I can definitely say to myself at that point in time, I fell into the aspect that I was taking what NASA stated as being the truth, when in fact, it was complete disinformation. It was wrong. And this object that you're looking at right here, you would think, okay, if they're telling me it's Venus, then it must be Venus. But that is not Venus, the planet that we know of. Now it states here in figure 3, above shows the H1A image, this time in blue, also from March 18th, 2011. The object at about the center of the image and to the left of the sun seems to have a light blue surrounding area, suggesting that it is a very, very bright sphere. The large circle visible in the image is obviously transparent. Now, we're talking about this big transparent sphere right here. Let's move back. The very smooth, curved outline is quite different from the object of interest. That was labeled as Venus in figure 2 when we were looking at the red image that clearly stated that lit up sphere was Venus. This object is therefore not likely to be a lens flare of the object of interest. Okay, let's go back to this. So it's easy for anybody to say that this object here, which is supposed to be Venus, but it's not, the intense illumination of this object is creating this big illuminated transparent sphere. Okay, well, we know now that was a complete lie. That was disinformation passed on as being a lens flare in that photograph. It says Stereo A spacecraft, or excuse me, let's back up a little bit here. Since the large transparent object is transparent, it is likely to be a device and probably an object or a disc-shaped object. Either way, it is most probably a sun simulation device, an energy collection device, or a device that has both functions. Let's move back to the photograph. Now, we've been talking about sun simulators and cloaking these planets. Is there a high possibility that a sun simulation device or craft in space is producing additional sunlight because our sun is going dark and losing vital energy that our planet needs? Do we doubt that NASA has this technology? I don't. I think that they possibly may be 30 years more in the future as far as advancements in space. We don't know. We'll never know. They're not going to just step out there and step up to the podium and tell you every little thing they are spending your money on. Because it's our tax dollars, ladies and gentlemen, that put all of this junk into space. Let's move on a little further here. I want you to take a real good look at the sphere that I'm circling here. We also have the transparent sphere and what is supposed to be Venus, but it's not Venus. Now, I've seen this object. I did a story about it back in October and November, and NASA claimed that this object was a glitch in the camera software. Wow. Now we're going all the way back to 2011, and we're seeing the same camera glitch. Now 6 years later, identical, almost a carbon copy. However, in the photograph from 2011, this object is tilted on its axis at 20 degrees. the new footage that came out in October and November of 2016, it looked like it was on a 0 degree axis. So as those 6 years had passed, this object was at a 20-degree tilt. As it moved closer to the sun, the energy, the magnetic force between the sun and this object possibly straightened it out where it is at a 0 degree axis. Back then, the picture you're looking at now, you can clearly see, and we will get into that information, this axis point right through here where my cursor is going. And this will be detailed for you later on. We're going to move down through this report, and we're going to start talking about the reactions of planets and stars. And this is where they get you. When you're looking at this information right here, now you're looking at here, I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to zoom in. And what I want you to see, I want you to see this large flaring right here. This is a massive, what you would refer to as a coronal mass ejection or a plasma ejection. Well, ladies and gentlemen, planets do not have those types of plasma ejections. Not the Earth, not Venus, not Mercury, not Mars. None of them. None of the planets in our solar system create this effect. It's a fact. It's a scientific fact. They don't have the composition of a star. Stars produce these types of ejections. Now, we're going to move ahead. We're going to go ahead and move further down here because you can see this is kind of time-lapsed. This ejection gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's move down a little bit and we can see. We'll zoom in now. And there you go. You can see this is a very large teardrop-shaped ejection. A plasma ejection, energy ejection, whatever you want to call it. Planets do not create this type of effect. So therefore, if this planet or this spherical object was being labeled Venus, well, that's a blatant lie. Because only stars can produce these types of ejections. Getting into that is very scientific. I was reading about it in this report. I actually had to read it twice to fully understand it. But what I want you to understand is that we are being deceived about what is in our inner solar system. Things that we are seeing, we're being deceived. So if I tell you the pen is red and I hand it to you and you can clearly see it's black, but yet I'm going to sell it to you. I am going to sell it to you to the point where you believe what I'm saying. And the majority of us are not educated in earth space science and physics and astrophysics. We're not astronomers. We're not even amateur astronomers. But taking into consideration the individual that's going to be supplying me with reports, professional reports, they have the education and they know exactly what they're looking at. And they're doing the research, and they have been doing the research for quite some time. Now it's just a matter of getting the information out to the public so they understand that we have been lied to for a long, long time. And not just about outer space. We've probably been lied to about a lot of things. But ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at right there, this was made to believe that that was Venus. It's not the planet Venus. That is a brown dwarf star that has been in our solar system, moving into the inner solar system for quite some time. And there's not just one of them. There are a few of them, and later on, this will be proven. Now, what we're looking at here, we're looking at the top of the sun, and we're looking at a plasma loop. And I see these on the sun all the time. A big ejection of plasma shoots up from the sun, but it's immediately captured by the sun's magnetic force, brings it right back down. So it actually doesn't go anywhere. It goes up, it loops over, and the sun captures it again. That's my best terminology for you. We see these plasma loops on the sun constantly. At any given time, you can pull up HelioViewer or the SDO, take a look at that specific camera. You can see these. Now, this is a blown up version of it, but this is clearly showing you what a plasma loop looks like on the sun. And the sun is a star, not a planet. Now, let's roll on down. More Secchi images. We're seeing an object here, and once again, this object is cut off in the photograph from the camera, but you can clearly see right here this big plasma ejection in the form of a teardrop, as I would call it. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, planets do not create plasma ejections. Only stars create this plasma ejection effect that you're seeing in these NASA photographs from 2011. Over here to the right, you can see two more illuminated objects, which we'll identify later. But once again, this bright object comes into view. You can see the large plasma ejection right here in the shape of a teardrop. Now, moving down into the third photograph, once again, we have the two illuminated objects, and we have our brown dwarf star right here. Now, something that this article goes into, and I'm going to go ahead and blow this up because this is absolutely significant. I want you to take a look, and I'll just refer to this as like a fiery expulsion of energy. Let's zoom in a little bit more. You can see it clearly. And here's the plasma ejection loop all the way around. And you can see what looks like and is referred to as a plasma rain just spewing from this brown dwarf star. And this is not make-believe, ladies and gentlemen. This is actual fact. Actual fact. Now, it states here in Figure 7, the H1A visible light images provided by Secchi on March 23rd, 2011, and March 24th. The object of interest has a jet-like plasma ejection and rounded plasma ejection from the area where large plasma loop originated. Okay, well, that's what we were just looking at. This large plasma loop and the jet-like plasma ejections. What I was showing you, and I'll just go ahead and zoom in again. This. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the reaction of a planet in our inner solar system. This is the reaction of a star. And not the star that illuminates our planet that we refer to as the sun. This is a brown dwarf star that is clearly in our inner solar system. And these are very, very powerful objects. Very powerful. And again, even though they may be much smaller than the sun, they do have very critical reactions with our sun. Now, it states that the object of interest, which is very likely to be a brown dwarf star, then has two other ejections, a jet-like plasma ejection and a large round plasma ejection. We just went over that. Now, we're going to move down to the images. Now, once again, what you're looking at, and I'm going to go ahead and just blow this up so we can get a better and clearer view. What we're looking at in the first image here, I'm circling, is not a planet. You can start to see the plasma ejection loop starting in the photograph. Once again, you can clearly see that's a perfect photograph of it. Perfect. So we definitely know that this is not a planet. We can go ahead and zoom into this photograph a little bit more so we can see it better. Now, there has been the discussion and the the debunking that these are lens flares, camera anomalies, and it's fake. That's the best credible information that debunkers that don't want you to have the correct information will state. That's the easiest terminology that they can come up with. That is a lens flare. You know, I've heard that terminology so much that it makes me absolutely sick. And you can't come up with a better explanation other than that is a lens flare. Well, to an individual who has studied material like this within their education and their career and knows what they're looking at, can easily discern that is not a lens flare. That is clearly a plasma ejection, and you're looking directly at it. So back in 2011, I guess they didn't think that someone was going to go back in time and start reviewing this footage. Dig deep. A few years ago, there was a lady, a New York Times journalist. You've seen some of the videos I've posted. She went back all the way to 2005, 2006, and 2007. Even though she wasn't an astronomer or a physicist, she was actually able to come up with some very credible information on other objects in our solar system that do not belong there, that we were never told about and we never learned about. Really makes you wonder. So as you can see, the object to the right, which is illuminated on the side, you can see my cursor, produced this plasma ejection very clearly. That's undeniable. Now we're moving into other imagery, and this is from the SREM, S-R-E-M images provided by SETI, March 18th, 2011 through the 19th. Now we're seeing this huge, large, spherical object, which is perfect. Perfectly spherical. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you understand or realize, but planets, they're not perfectly spherical. They don't have the perfect spherical shape. It's nature. Nothing's perfect within nature. However, when you're looking at this image, wow, that is perfectly round. I bet you if I put a compass in the middle of that, stretched it out, I bet you I can draw that circle perfectly. How is that possible? I'll tell you how that's possible. It's man-made. It's man-made. And within inside is clearly defined two spherical objects overlapping. And here, diagrammed by the red arrow, we're seeing this plasma ejection in the black. You can see it. Bottom line is, that was not a planet that is producing this plasma ejection. It's just not a planet. And they're disguising it as the planet Venus. Because they're bargaining on none of us knowing what we're looking at. The individual who has produced this report did a fantastic job. This is This is very credible information. Excuse me, I lost it. Just figures Adobe would want to update right in the middle of my presentation to you. So we're going to go ahead and go back to where we were. So we can clearly see this object. This is possibly part of the sun simulator. Because, ladies and gentlemen, they would have to do something. If we were losing a tremendous amount of energy from the sun, we would be able to see the sun going dark. We would be able to see that from Earth. We would be able to feel that from Earth. People would be looking up into the sky and saying, what in the hell is happening? Therefore, creating more attention to what's going on. And the biggest thing that they fear is mass panic. They do not want these types of disruptions. But looking at this evidence, I mean, this evidence is rock solid. This object is being disguised as the planet Venus, and we know for a fact that it is not. Now, we're going to move down into more of these SREM-Secchi photographs and these images. Now, it says here, in the SREM images, black indicates the emissions of protons and white the emissions of heavy ions. This brown dwarf star seems to have plenty of these to eject. The heavy ions are to be expected, as these stars are usually surrounded by a cloud of heavy ions. The protons we see are probably protons that it captured from the sun. Well, looking at the images, once again, we'll zoom into this image. And once again, you're going to see that very large plasma ejection. Looks like a big teardrop. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, planets do not react like that. Here we are again. Same thing. These photographs were all taken in time lapse. About, some of them 12 minutes, 15 minutes. It all depends. Once again, you can see the actual star is hidden over here, but the same ejection is coming from what is said to be Venus. And it's not Venus. What's being indicated is the presence of a brown dwarf star. So, as it states at the bottom, in conclusion, a brown dwarf star, which is probably one of the stars in the dark sun cycle star system, appears in the Secchi images in March of 2011. The same brown dwarf star most probably produced the plasma ejections seen in the Secchi images from February 2017. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in February of this year, this imagery was captured again, and it was disguised as being Venus. This big teardrop plasma ejection, it was said that came from Venus, a planet. Well, I'm telling you directly from the evidence that we've just looked at, those plasma ejections are not coming from the planet Venus. They are coming from a brown dwarf star system within our solar system. And the reason why it's being referred to as a system is because there are more than one. And these brown dwarf stars have the ability to react with other objects in our solar system, meteors, asteroids, things of that nature, like a magnet, pulling them directly towards itself. The probability of Earth being in the path of one of these objects, well, that's something that we'll have to look into and calculate. But we've already seen a huge increase in near-Earth objects, asteroids, meteors, meteorites. We've already seen it. We're seeing it almost every day. So this is part one of these findings. I'll be bringing you part two later on today. I'm going to be reading over the information to educate myself on it. And I'm going to be very honest with you. Whenever I saw the imagery from February of 2017 showing that big teardrop plasma ejection coming out of the side of Venus, and NASA issuing the statement and several debunkers saying, oh, it was a lens flare, that was a reaction of the lighting and the camera. Oh, well, I almost bought it. But after looking into it myself and figuring it out, scientifically it was impossible. So the disinformation campaign is in full force. And through the help of this very educated individual, we're going to get to the bottom of it, little by little. And when you're researching something like this, you have to go back in time and search for the evidence. That way, you can bring all of that from the past right here to the present. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. I'm going to be bringing you later on this afternoon part two of this scientific report. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. Stay informed, stay updated, stay tuned. Thank you for watching.